Hi, this is Paul Sandon with Business Success Tips, where you learn how to make more money in less time and have more fun. I'm excited today because I've got Aaron Hockel, and he's with Alta Vista Strategic Partners. Yes, so that's a mouthful. So, Aaron, tell me what it is you do for contractors and why they should possibly hire you for any reason at all.
Yeah. So Paul, first, thanks for having me on the show today. Much appreciated. Alta Vista, we're a 12-year-old marketing agency, work for about 400 contractors around the country, 50 employees. So every day our team of people is waking up and we're working with $2 million contractors up to some guys that are doing 100 million plus across all different industries, from roofing, painting, plumbing, home building, GCs, et cetera. And what we're really helping them do is build and execute really efficient marketing plans, heavy digital focus, online focus. And, the one thing we're also really big on there with with all of our clients is reporting and demonstrating result. So, that's kind of what we do. If you need marketing help online for your contracting or home services business, we'd be happy to talk with you. And that's kind of the people we work with every day.
So now I'm going to tell you a lot of the objections that my clients have had about digital marketing. Okay. So first place, can you define for my audience out there, what is digital marketing?
Yeah, it's a pretty broad question. We would, short way to say it, anything on the internet for us would be the starting point there. You could extend it into things more like video ads, streaming audio ads. There's a lot of different things. But for us, digital, and I'm doing the air quotes, really just means online, could be email. We would say, and I would look at it saying, it's not real world. So it's not going to a trade show. It's not knocking on doors. It's not sending postcards. All of these things do integrate together today, right? Like if you're going to get someone to your website, you can send them a postcard. If you're going to meet them at a trade show, you can send them an email, right? All these things do kind of tie together, but broadly digital, think internet.
Okay. So as most of the contractors, I think, I'm a small guy. I do a couple million a year. I got 5 employees. I can't afford digital marketing. That's for big companies. How do you answer that one?
Yeah, so I think that there's price point. There's obviously a minimum threshold because everyone's in business to make money. So I would be upfront by saying that, and you do get what you pay for. At the end of the day, we look at it as an investment to a business is how are you being found, right? So if you're not investing in ways to show up on the internet when people are looking for your services in your backyard, over time, you're going to be challenged to grow your business. Price-wise, we work with people as low as $1,500 a month, sometimes even a little less than that, right? So
does that also include the advertising, or is that just your fees?
That can be just our fees, but not everything we do is necessarily requiring additional advertising or paid advertising online. There's certainly organic strategies, right? If you start to go into buying online ads in your most competitive home services and contracting industries, yeah, your budget's going to go higher. Probably $4,000, $5,000 is probably more of a typical starting point, with at least half that money going to buy ads. But again, you don't have to buy ads, right? Not necessarily. So, for a $2 or $3 million business, is $1,500 a month really unaffordable? I wouldn't necessarily say no.
I would say everybody looks at their return on investment, right? I mean, if I can spend $1,500 on you and get, 5,000 back, hallelujah. So do you ever measure return on investment? I mean, how do you figure out whether it's a good deal? Like, my concern with a lot of marketing advertising in the past, it's very sort of etheric, well, you just need to build your brand, whatever the hell that means, right? So they put money into this stuff, and now you're better well known. No more business, but your neighbor knows your name. Congratulations, right? So, I mean, but how do you justify it to these small guys that go, and I've had this problem before. Well, I build my brand, but I don't know what that does, right?
Yeah. I wouldn't say that building a brand is the top thing that we would recommend to somebody. We'll say less than 10 million, just as a pick a number, right? And especially less than 5 million. Maybe at 5 million, you start to invest in some brand building initiatives. For us, what we would look at, and we'll say smaller person, at Alta Vista, one of our number one things is justifying what we're doing. If I just say, oh, well, look at all of these stats that don't really mean anything, that aren't very meaningful, I don't keep customers. So for us, what we're really big on is saying, here's the work we did. Here's a clear-cut report that shows, here's the traffic to your website. We can track and record virtually every phone call that comes through your website by channel. Did this person come organic? Did they come from a paid ad? Was it on Bing? Was it on Google? Was it on Facebook? And we can sit down with a customer and listen to a recording of every one of those calls. And these numbers only appear when someone visits a website from a certain paid channel. Becomes kind of, you can't really argue that, right? We can show,
I agree. I must admit, I have one client, he's a home builder, bigger than a lot of our clients. He does 60 million. And he had one marketing company. He changed marketing companies and he was selling, he said he builds a lot of houses. He was selling one house a week. And because he changed the marketing companies, he went to selling one house a day. That's like 500% increase. So I can see, you're right, yes, it does make a huge difference.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. Let's just say he covers the whole state of California. We'll just pick out somewhere really big, or New Jersey or Florida. You tell me the state. If you are increasing the number of people from a given area to your website when they're looking for your services, best home builder near me, I want to show up and get traffic anywhere in this state or these zip codes when someone searches best custom home builder or best track home builder or whatever they're looking for. If I 5X the traffic or I 10X the traffic, that could be through organic, it could be through paid, it could be through a number of different channels. The inquiries follow, right? So if you're doing it correctly.
This is sort of etheric. I want to know, give me some example. You don't have to use the person's name or not, of a smaller contractor, say he's doing, I'm saying 3 to 5 million, small guy, right? And tell me what you did and how you justified your existence.
Yeah, sure. So I actually have a client, roofing client. We got hooked up with them when they were doing they started with us when they were doing a little over $1 million a year. What we really focused on with them at $1 million a year at the very earliest stages was really all around building online reviews, which are huge for local SEO and for building social proof and social trust. We also really focused on local SEO and then dominating organic SEO in one zip code. All we want to do is show up number 1 or number 2 or number 3 when people are looking for us in this zip code. We did probably a year to 18 months. We then came and said, all right, well, what's the next evolution? And we invested and we went to Google Ads campaign while also pushing that SEO campaign out, right?
Just so people know, what does SEO mean? Some contractors don't understand that term.
Yeah, absolutely. So SEO, search engine optimization, that's the idea of showing up on Google in places where you're not paying for an ad. So it's not really free because candidly, you have to pay someone to do the work behind the scenes. It doesn't just happen on its own. So it's not free. But you have to pay someone like SEO, Alta Vista, an SEO agency, somebody else to help with that. But it's showing up in all the places that aren't a paid ad. The flip side would be pay-per-click Google ads, which are all the paid ads that show up across Google at the top, bottom, et cetera. What we did was we started to dominate in those organic areas first, with online reviews being the number one thing we stressed. We then slowly, over about 18 months to 2 years, 18 months later, we then launched a paid advertising campaign. This took their monthly expense from, we'll call it $1,500 all in, $6,000, right? At this point, they've grown from $1 million to $3 million. These guys were very good at what they do, great business people, active in the community. So I'm not taking total credit for any of this. I'm just sharing with you the roadmap, right?
Okay.
We've now pushed that to cover half of a county, pushing into a surrounding county. We have scaled up to start then really rolling out Facebook, Instagram, retargeting, really getting aggressive on social media. They're now probably spending advertising-wise somewhere.
What does retargeting mean, Aaron?
Oh, yeah, retargeting is pretty simple. Anybody who's bought an airline ticket or booked a hotel, they went to the Marriott or Delta website, they left, they went to CBS Sports or weather.com, and they were looking up the forecast, and here came an ad for Delta or here came an ad for Marriott.
So they find out who you are to get your whatever computer online, whatever, however they get your address, computer address, and then they send you ads because they know you're looking for something, right?
Yeah. Well, it used to track via cookies. Now it does other things. But yes, essentially, yes. You visited this website, we're able to attach to you, and then we're able to trail you around the internet. That's the simplest way to put it. It's actually a very straightforward process. You can do it for, an advertising budget being paid to an advertiser could be $300 a month, and you'll show up plenty if you're getting web traffic.
Okay. So
we've evolved these
where
plans,
does this company go? How big do they get, and how do they justify your expense?
Yeah. So they're doing about 12 million a year now. So they're up to about $1 million a month. It's been a 6-year run between the two groups. So this isn't like an overnight sort of thing. We provide them with a comprehensive report every month, dashboard. They can actually look at it live. Here's what you spent on your paid advertisements. Here's the number of leads. Here are the areas they came from. Here are the different types of services. They do roofing, siding, windows, doors, right? So here's the ads for windows. Here's the ads for roofing. They can see all that. We can then provide them with a dashboard for every phone call that was recorded coming through these channels. Mm-hmm. We then move block by block. Here's all your social media performance. Here's your ad performance. It's challenging. Attribution is challenging, but it's how people like me stay in business and justify what we're doing.
Right. I mean, contractors are very show me kind of guys, right? They go, I realize my neighbor knows my name, and that's really cool. And when I went down to the gym, they said, I like your new ad. But unless it turns into the bottom line and them getting more business, they have a really hard justifying spending things on soft cost.
Yeah, I agree. And what we like about it is that, we hope that most contractors are using CRMs. There's a ton out there, not worth rattling through all the names. But if they're using a CRM source, and I can say, all right, hey, Paul, last month I generated phone calls from these 10 phone numbers. Cross-reference them to your CRM. Oh, I gave bids to
just
6
for
of
that.
them.
CRM is customer relationship management. No offense, some guys might even know, right? It's sure where you track all your stuff. It could be HubSpot. It could be, hopefully Salesforce, a little more expensive, most is going to pay. But there are lots of CRM, and some of the software like Procore and Buildertrend have some sort of a hokey CRM built in. But it's where you track all your leads, right?
For sure. And so you have this repository of leads. I wouldn't advocate for this, but it could be an Excel spreadsheet that just says Mrs. Jones, 101 Main Street, and her phone number and her email, right? I can sit down with you if you want to, and we can listen to every phone call, and we can say, it's without a doubt, Mrs. Jones called you on September 27th at 3:18 p.m. Eastern, that's where I am, and asked for a quote for a roof and siding at her house. And did you bid it? Did you close it? Did you win it? Right? So we can get that granular to provide that level of access where it sort of becomes, yes, I did quote that, right?
I understand a roofing. That's a service business. Okay. What about a remodeling contractor? Some guy that does home remodels, his average project's maybe $50,000, $100,000. How could it possibly be worth that? And how long do they have to commit to make sure it really, obviously, I use the gym analogy. If you go to the gym and you lost 10 pounds, not a problem. But unfortunately, you need a personal trainer, be there for 6 months before you can see any results, right?
Yeah. So 6 months, I like that number. That's kind of the minimum that we would look at for any engagement, to be honest with you. So you picked it, not me. Just because these things do take time to compound. Part of it's about building a pipeline. We work with remodeling contractors who are selling master bathrooms for $50,000, kitchens for $100,000 plus, additions for $200,000. We have customers like that exploded north of 10 million in the pandemic when everybody realized they needed a sunroom or a new this or a new basement, all that sort of stuff. It effectively works for everybody. There's some places of the country, extremely rural areas, where this is probably a little less effective.
Well, it's sort of like recruiting. If you're in a major, I can always find your people if you're in the right industry, but if you're in the middle of Arkansas, there's no town for 200 miles. It's really hard to find a project manager, right?
That's a perfect example, right? Because at the end of the day, when Mrs. Jones on the residential side whether she wants a deck, a roof, air conditioning, whether she wants to find pizza delivery, whether she wants to know the best hair salon, what do? Consumers look online. It's the number one place to go, right? So I just go back to that very first thing about When Mrs. Jones is looking for someone to do anything, what is she doing? Or Mr. Smith, right?
Now, I'm going to give you the
boom.
argument, and I've heard this before. I mean, I'm a personal believer that even a small remodeling business should consider themselves a marketing company that funds their marketing with products and services. I've had a really hard time getting that across to contractors because a lot of them say, well, I do a great job. I answer the phone. That's all the marketing I need. I get referrals, no big problem. But it's sort of like, I'm watching a thing on Spotify right now. Like, you can't fight digital. I mean, it's happening. You can't, like the record company said, no, we're going to not go to streaming. Good luck with that, right? So it's the same kind of thing. I think a contractor that totally depends on referrals to build his business is going to have a really hard time growing it.
Yeah, I would like to know how many of those contractors went 2008, 2009, 2010, 2011, right? When all of these things, so many of these businesses really struggled, right? So maybe somebody who started in 2015 and has been riding pretty high, just as a broader economic comment, they might be facing a little more of a challenging time, right? That $200,000 addition on a home equity line at 8% does not look nearly as attractive as 3%. Right. Yeah. So there's going to be some economic factors that are going to slow down. So the idea of like, I'm just going to live off of referrals. We can go to Google and look up search volume history. And Paul, it'll tell us there are fewer people searching today for roofing or painting or plumbing or whatever you want nationally. The search volumes are down kind of across the board. Well, why is that? I know somebody who works for GAF. GAF received the same amount of order volume for new roofing shingles in 21 and 2022 that they had in the 5 prior years combined. So, X shingles were ordered in 5 years and then the same amount were ordered in the next 2 years. Unsustainable,
right?
Top of the mountain type of stuff. If you live off referrals, what do you do when the pie is shrinking? What do you do when there's no one else to refer you to? Right?
I always kind of where in marketing, and I'm maybe a marketing fan, but I have a hard time convincing contractors like recruiting that if you're marketing, it's supply demand, right? You can create demand for your services. And I don't think referrals is going to create enough demand for your services. And the question is, how can I create a greater demand? Because the greater demand, the lower supply, the higher price, economics 1A, right? So I'm seeing you as a way of actually creating a demand for my residential construction services, right? You can actually do that.
1,000%. I'm going to use your home builder as a really good example. I'm going to say he builds neighborhoods and he's building a 500 home neighborhood, all new construction somewhere, just to make this as a really good example. People who buy new construction homes, what are things they buy typically within short order of that? A lot of them will buy a fence. A lot of them will buy a deck or a screened in porch, right? Maybe they want to put a pool in. 3 things that go in the backyard. Easy enough, right? Because home builders typically do not do any of those 3 things. A lot. Right? Well, we can say, all right, here's this area, and we can get as small as a 1 kilometer radius and say, all right, we just want to run ads inside of this bubble for pools, fences, and decks, right? Mm-hmm. And it's all new construction homes. Well, how do we create demand? We know there's going to be demand coming out of the neighborhood, right? But if you have no advertising presence, no way to get into the neighborhood, how do they find you in the first place? Right? Who's gonna refer you in the neighborhood, right? Well, they're all new. They're all new neighbors. So you see what I'm saying? Like, that's how we target an area.
I see what's happening here, and I know I've been in this for 40 years. Contractors, there's this myth, and I think it's a myth. Do a good job, and the world, the world will be pathway to your door. Like, as a contractor, if I do a good job, I'm fine. Remember the yellow pages in the old days? I mean, you probably don't remember those, right? So, I mean,
why do you think there's AAA everything?
Right. AAA everything. So what happens is that, as I move my cheese, the market's moving. And if contractors don't understand that digital marketing is important, it's sort of like, a guy that's in a band and says, I'm only going to do CDs, right? I think he's in trouble. So I'm trying, how can you help me or help yourself? How do you convince these? I'm sort of a Luddite, and that's what the contractors tend to be, a little behind the times. How do you convince them that, you need to spend money on marketing? Because I will tell you, I beat that drum a long time and I failed miserably. It's like spending money on recruiting. They go, well, I'm afraid it'll take too long. How am I going to do it if I do a good job? So how do you kind of those objections. I mean, I think people should spend money on marketing, but I'll tell you, contractors, especially small ones between 2 and 10 million, have a really hard time justifying marketing because they go, I don't get it. Usually what happens is, I know I had my sister try Facebook and I was on LinkedIn and I had a couple, and they have their nephew or somebody who's, supposedly a social media whiz, right? I'm sure you've had that. Well, my nephew went on it. We tried some ads. We did a little stuff on Facebook. We did a little stuff on whatever it is, right? Never did any good. So it's a waste of time and money.
Yeah, that, I love to always give comparisons. Like that would be like me having my nephew come put a roof on my house. Right. Would you recommend that, sir? Maybe I can have my cousin, maybe I can have my sister do my air conditioning repair, right? I'm just picking out things. Right. Maybe they can build my house for me. Like if you think logically, like you're a professional, you're skilled at what you do, and someone should hire you for that skill and expertise. The fact that you're going to just bypass that when it comes to marketing and growing your business doesn't really make a lot of sense.
The hardest part with contractors, Aaron, is I used to be able to get them to buy a backhoe, no problem, right? You could buy, but when it went to doing things like you need, some kind of project management software. Well, I don't know about that. And marketing is even more abstract, right? I mean, it's like, and I'm a contractor. How am I going to create business by doing that? I have a website. That's fine. Then lots of times I've seen this happen. Their web guy or woman, whoever it is, says, "Oh, I can do digital marketing." How hard is that, right? And so what happens is they have their web person sort of do some digital marketing, and it sucks. It doesn't work, right?
Yeah. So that's one thing I would share with you. One thing that we do come across here a lot of times are, I don't necessarily even know for a lot of people if it sucked. Certainly does plenty of times. A lot of people are just never really given results that are clear, intelligible, and easy to understand the way a contractor wants to consume them, right? We've been at this 12 years. I don't know how all their minds work, but I know enough that if I start getting into all these acronyms and buzzwords and numbers and metrics, it becomes a little bit hard. But if I just say, hey, Paul, last month you spent $5,000 via Alta Vista and your advertising campaign, right? Your phone rang 100 times. We tracked every phone call over 2 minutes. We believe that's a qualified amount of time, right? So your phone rang 100 times and those calls lasted over 2 minutes. The cost per phone call was $50 a phone call, right? If you'd like, that's a really upfront way that very few marketing agencies give it out.
Pick every 10 phone calls, which is $500, I sell $100,000 remodeling job. That's pretty easy to justify, right?
Very easy, right?
You walk in their door and say, how many remodeling jobs would you buy for $500 a piece? Give me a list. I'll take it, I'll sell you as many as you want, right?
1,000%. But I think part of what it comes back to is bad experiences. No different than, oh man, all contractors suck, or I don't want to remodel my kitchen because the last guy, the guy who did my bathroom.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, so contractors get a bad rap from other contractors. There's plenty of great ones out there. Of course, there's some ones that aren't so great. Same thing in our universe, right? But where I go with it too is, to me, when you're able to demonstrate really clear outcomes in terms that make sense to the contractor, to our customer, I think that does also go a long way, because guys feel like they've gotten burned. Oh, I spent $2,000 a month on SEO for the last 3 years with this guy. And I go, okay, we run some analytics, and it's like, well, your SEO is, here's the, not my opinion. Here's a publicly traded software company. You can buy an account, run the test yourself, get the same results. This is not me telling you. This is the software telling you. And then they feel burned, right? So I think there's a lot of just factors that do come in here of bad prior experience.
I'll tell you something that's really scary for a lot of our clients. See, you've got this big, successful marketing company. You're like, oh my God. And people go, wow, they're not going to, I'm just a little guy. My budget's maybe $2,000 a month to start, not much. They're not even going to pay attention to me. I'm a little speck to them. They want big company because you're this big giant, look at your website. Wow, I'm really impressed. So can you peel these guys? Because I think they're going to be scared off. When they look at your website, they go, oh my God, I can't afford these guys.
Yeah. Our typical customer probably spends about $2,300 a month with us. So not significantly more than that average number I gave you, right?
Wow.
Our typical customer does $5 to $20 million a year in sales. We certainly work with plenty of people that do 2 million and 3 million. Our typical customer is, I want to be the best roofer in this town. I want to be the best asphalt paving contractor in this city. I want to be the best landscaper. We work with a blend of both commercial and residential, right? But we're not out here just simply to say, oh, we want the $60 million guy. And yeah, if we get the $5 million guy, we're not going to care about him. We have a philosophy of, we'd rather have lots of $5 million guys, right? Because they value what we do. We can have better relationships with them. We can really drive impactful, meaningful results to their business, right? That's what we do focus on, right? So again, our average customer, a little over 2,000, 2,300 a month, I believe is the number.
You understand contractors, right? Because a lot of these marketing agencies, they market everybody, right? They market, the beauty salon, they market the car dealer down the street, their local guys, they'll do everything. Now, you have some focus, at least parting on contractors, don't you?
100%. It's the only thing we work with. So it's a little over 400 customers, 36 states. We do have customers from all over the place, all the coasts, everywhere in between. We came from a background, two of my business partners that co-founded the business, actually, they came from a background in electrical contracting. So, right. And again, it was in the 90s and early 2000s. So not as relatable, maybe not now, but to some extent, we've been in the trades, we've been in the contracting space. It's the only thing that we do. Not to say everything's always the same, but if you're like, hey, I have a $3 million roofing business and I want to get to $6 million. The roadmap to do that in Maryland or Michigan or New Jersey or North Carolina, dealing with a residential B2C consumer, there's some repeatable and scalable factors there.
Right.
You know what I mean?
This quote said that, a smart man learns from his own mistakes and a wise man learns from the mistakes of others. So you got a lot of history there and you know what works, right?
Yeah, we have I would say, look, it's always going to be tweaked. It's always going to be customized, but we have roadmap. We have learning experiences. We've seen the challenges. We know some things that are happening. We also bring the advantage of, well, I'm doing it for 10 other roofers, or I'm doing it for 10 other painters, or I'm doing it for 10 other remodeling contractors, right? We're doing it for others. So we, if someone wants us to run a test somewhere, everybody wins as a result of that person wanting to try something new, right? And then we have the data and we have the informed, information to share.
Okay, that sounds awesome. So now if someone wants to talk to you, does it cost them for you to tell them what you're going to do for them? I mean, you have to do a, proposal that costs them money, or how do people get involved?
Nope. We never charge anybody to get a quote or a proposal from us. We're more than happy to speak with anybody. We typically do a 15 to 20 minute initial phone call to really understand your business, what you do, who you work for, where you do it, what does that look like, right? That allows us to really kind of formulate what could we put in a plan? What would make sense for this business, right? We don't just go off the rack, the same thing for everybody, right? Because everyone's business is a little bit different. And then, so we do a 20-minute evaluation, 15, 20 minutes. And then coming out of that, we usually do like a more in-depth presentation that really gets into the nuts and bolts of, I imagine, here's what we do here, here's what we do there.
Anybody's going to at least learn from that presentation, stuff they don't know, even if they don't do it, right? I guarantee you're going to know more about digital marketing at the end of that presentation than the beginning, right?
I would really hope so. And, we typically, I'm confident. Yeah. I mean, I'm giving someone here, I have a presentation later this afternoon, actually. And, I was working on it this morning and we're saying things like, well, these many pages on your website are missing this information, or these pages don't have enough content and copy on them. Those are things, 31 pages have images for 100 kilobytes, right? Okay. What does that mean? Maybe not much to them, but we're always trying to share things of like, well, you can go to your other provider and say, hey, this other person ran an audit on me and fix all this stuff. I don't care.
I really see the value in what you just said. If someone's interested, is listening, of our listeners listening to this podcast, how do they get in touch with you? I mean, you personally, not your company. I'm going to talk to you.
Yeah. So two things. They can email me. It's AARON, and it's at altavistasp.com. So that's altavistasp.com. They can call me on my cell phone. It's 443-618-0564. If you want to put it in the show notes or,
Right.
that's fine too. They can do either one of those things. They can connect with me on LinkedIn. They can come to my website and put a form request through. So you go Google Alta Vista Strategic Partners. You can read some reviews
Well,
about
they
us.
better be able to find you on the internet. That's all I can say, right?
Yeah, they're going to be able to find me on the internet, right? But all those sort of things. If you put an inquiry through the website, if you mention the Business Success Tips podcast, right, that would certainly wind up on me. You can put
Okay,
my
cool.
name in the contact form. But yeah, I 100% am accessible and happy to talk to anybody listening.
Okay. Well, Aaron, I really appreciate you being here. This is a really tough subject for most contractors because they feel that this whole marketing thing is a waste of time. I can't emphasize more that I've had the personal experience. If you have the right marketing company, it's the best investment you're ever going to make. But I think you have to talk to someone like you to figure it out. So thanks for being here. I really appreciate you sharing this information.
Yeah, Paul, thank you for having me. I appreciate the opportunity to share some insights with your audience and would love to do it again sometime.
Okay, thanks a lot. Appreciate it, Aaron.